Hello and welcome to the Ciao Bella Midnight Spell mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website are linked in the description box below, so you can click on those links, purchase those products to follow along. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, we are going to start putting all of our book together and apply those finishing touches. Now, before we put our pages in, we're going to go ahead and decorate the covers and the spine section because it'll be easier. So I've taken this 12 by 12 paper first, and I've cut two pieces from the bottom that measure 5 inches by 8 inches. I'm going to place one piece on the center part of the inside, front, and back covers. So I've already marked mine where they're going to go. Now you can do this one of two ways. So I'm just going to place my pieces here first, and then I'll show you the other pieces that we're going to cut. From this 12 by 12 paper, I've cut 4 strips to 1.5 by 8 inches. I'm going to place one on each side of my paper, here and here. Now you can place it so that the blue paper is on top, or you can place it so that the blue paper is underneath. But you have to decide before you do the next step, because if you're going to put the papers on top, then you need to put your center paper on first. If you're going to put your center paper on the top, then the blue strips need to go on first. So go ahead and decide which look you prefer, and you can go ahead and adhere all of these pieces down. I decided to go ahead and place my blue pieces on top. So I have those decorated, and now we're going to come in here to the hinge. Now I have from this 12 by 12 paper, this was the one with the horse and the carriage, I've cut myself 13 strips that are 3/8 by 7 3/4 of an inch. With my pieces, I'm going to place one piece in each of these 1/2 inch sections of my hinge. So I've kept my pieces in order just out of habit, but this is not a very distinguishable pattern, so it's okay if you didn't. You're going to place one piece here, one piece here. You are not going to put any of these strips on the part of the hinge that has that mitered edge. That's where the page is going to attach. Then you'll come down here to this next one in between, and then the bottom part. So the extension of the hinge, but not the actual top of the hinge. You're going to go through the whole entire thing until you get to your last piece is going to be here. All of my yellow pieces are now on my hinges, so everything is ready to go for me to put my pages in my book. You can add some more to your covers if you want to. It's perfectly fine if you want to add some embellishments, but I'm going to leave mine just as they are. Now, because my front cover does have some buildup on it, I'm going to put my pages in from the back to the front. So I have my pages here. I'm going to make sure that they're in the correct order when I do this. I have unfortunately put albums together incorrectly before, and it can be kind of frustrating sometimes. So this is my page 4. This is the front, this is the back. So I'm going to set this here just so that I know which orientation it needs to go in. And I'm going to be placing my adhesive on this whole entire section here and here. If you are preferring to use double-sided tape here, just make sure that the entire hinge section is covered with your adhesive. But I'm going to be using my tacky glue here, so I'm going to do the same thing and apply my adhesive on both sides of this hinge, being very careful that I don't go down past that score line, because you will see it if the adhesive is past that score line. Once I have my adhesive on, I'm going to go ahead and open up this pocket between my pages. Then I'm going to take my page and just place it right over that hinge. And I shouldn't be able to get it to go down further than that score line. Once I get it to the score line, I'm going to press this side down, and then I'm going to flip over and make sure that it's all the way down on the opposite side. And then I'm going to press my page right onto that hinge. You can use your bone folder here if you want to. So now we have our first, or I should say our fourth page in our album. Now we have page 3. This is the back side. I'm going to flip it over and leave it sit like this. And I'm going to just repeat that process. I'm going to place my adhesive on that hinge on both sides, and then I'm going to come back and place my page. Same as with the fourth page, I'm going to find that pocket between the pages, and I'm going to just slide it right over that hinge down to the score line, pressing it down, flipping over, making sure everything is lined up, and then I'll press it down on this side. Next, we have the second page. So this is the back side and this is the front side. I'm going to set this here, add my adhesive to my tab, and then I'll come back and place this on the page. With my pocket open, I'm going to try to make sure that ribbon doesn't get in the way. I'm going to place that page right over top of the hinge, down to the score line, then press it down, then flip over and burnish. Now we have the final page. So this is the back side, here's the front side. I'm going to go ahead and place my adhesive on my tab, and then I'll come back to place the page on the hinge. Got my pocket opened up. I'm going to place that pocket right over that hinge, down to my score line, and press it down, flip over, make sure everything's lined up right on the back side, and I'll press this one down. And now we have all of the pages in the album. You can go ahead and close everything up and see how it looks. So you will see that when the pages are fully extended, there is still a little bit of room before the cover, which is good. And it definitely fits in. When I have this sitting like this, the album does slant down. The reason for that is I build my books making sure to leave room for photos. So when you start adding more into this, it's going to start to add some more bulk. So if you ever wonder why your book is not sitting flat, it is purposely designed to lay like this until you have more things inside of it. At this point, we are going to start going through and decorating those photo mats that are inside the pages, and we're going to make the photo mats for the pockets. For the photo mat, I've used my Cinderella book cover from the 12 by 12 paper. I've trimmed the top and the bottom edges, and then I've trimmed actually a little tiny bit of the white mat so that this would fit better. And then on the back side, I've used my 12 by 12 paper here, and this piece is 4 inches by 5 inches. And this is just going to go right here in this pocket. Now I made a little tuck spot here with the journaling card. So this is from the 8 by 8 paper. I've just trimmed it out. And then this I've taken from the Fussy cutting sheet. This one here, I've just used a little tiny white border around it. I've only adhered the top, the left side, and the bottom down so that this will tuck in here and stay hidden when that flap is closed. Then flipping over, I did add one fussy cut piece from one of the other fussy cutting sheets. There has a crown on it. From this fussy cutting sheet, I cut the crown that was down here, again with a really small border around it. I've only adhered the bottom on so that the top is open. The photo will slide behind it. For the back of page 1 in my pocket, I have my photo mats that we're going to turn into a piece that go together. So I have the smaller piece first from my yellow paper here. It's had the horse and carriage on it again. It was 12 by 12. I've cut a piece to 3.5 by 4 1/4 and put it on the bottom. Now this was a leftover scrap piece from the 12 by 12 papers. I'm pretty sure it was a 12 by 12 paper. I don't remember what paper it was because I only had a little piece about this big. I've cut this to 2 inches by 3.5 inches and adhered it to the top. We're not going to put anything on the back of this one. For the larger photo mat, I've used this 12 by 12 paper and I've cut a piece to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 and I've adhered this to the front. We will decorate the back in just a minute, but we need to place our brad first and then we'll cover the brad with the paper. I'm going to place both of my photo mats together so that the top left corners are even, and I need my piercing tool for this. So I'm going to come in maybe about here. So this is about 3/8 of an inch over and 3/8 of an inch down. And I'm going to just pierce my hole through all of these layers. Maybe I'll just do the first one. Then I'll put these together and pierce through the second one. Now I have my brad. I'm just using a plain silver brad. Going to place it down through both layers and then open those prongs and press that down. Then for the back side, I have this paper here. It was a 12 by 12 piece and it looks like this. So I just had, might have been down here, I just took a piece and cut it. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to place this down here at the bottom. Then I had a leftover piece from the cut apart papers that we use for a photo mat, and this is 1 1/2 by 4 1/4. I'm going to place this up here at the top, and that will cover my brad so you can't see it, but then these should still be able to swing and move. So this is what the photo mat will look like when it's finished. You can add some extra decoration with the fussy cut sheets if you want to, but I'm going to leave mine just like this. I'm going to tuck it down here into my pocket. Same thing here, if you want to add some extra decoration you can, but I'm going to be leaving mine plain. I did add a strip here. This is from the fussy cutting sheet, and I believe it was this one. There were 2 strips down the side, so I've cut this. It is open, so the photo will tuck behind it, and then I've cut one of the clocks from one of the fussy cutting sheets and only adhered it to this little strip of paper. Starting with inside this flap, for my photo mat here, I have taken my 12 by 12 paper and I've cut 2 pieces to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 and placed them on the top and the bottom. Then I have this small scrap here that was left over, and I've cut this to 3 1/4 by just slightly less than 3/4 of an inch. And I've cut this from, I'm pretty sure it came from this fussy cut sheet. And I've just left a border around it, and I've only adhered down the center part so that the photos will tuck behind it. Now on the back side, I've taken this from, I believe it might have also been here. It was one of those border strips. I have added this here, and I added one of the flowers. I think it came from this paper here. And I did adhere this completely down. Now I've left the rest of it blank, that way it can be a journaling spot, or you could place smaller photos if you want to. There aren't a lot of journaling cards in this collection. Even these that are meant to be journaling cards, I guess you could use those, but I just left spot for journaling. Now if you don't like the look of this, you can cover this with paper. This is going to go here in this pocket. And then I did fussy cut Cinderella from this sheet here, And I've just adhered a little tiny piece down into this white, and I've adhered her at the bottom so that the photo will slide behind her. This is the card that I had behind the belly band. So I've taken the Eternity card from the 12 by 12 paper. It's a little tiny bit smaller than it needs to be, but that's okay. I just made it work. Then I've taken 2 strips of gold. They're cut to 1/2 inch, and I just trimmed them to the size of the card so that this would all be uniform. And it was just a scrap that I had. I think it's left over from one of the Fussy cutting sheets. So I've adhered these down first, and then I placed my card in the center. For the inside, I just left it blank because I don't have a lot of paper left, and this is going to be completely covered by a 4x6 photo, so you won't see that paper anyway. Then on the back, I've taken a piece of my 12 by 12 paper. I don't have anything left from this, I don't think. Actually, this is what's left of this. I did trim this from here. So this is what that paper looks like. And I've cut this to 4 inches by 6 inches and just placed it right on the back of my card. Then I'm going to place this here behind the belly band. Now you can add a decoration to your belly band if you want to. I've kind of looked at some of the different pieces, but I didn't like the way it looked, so I'm just going to leave mine plain. Now for the photo mat underneath the clock, this is what I have done with it. And I've first taken my 8x8 paper. This 8x8 paper has the, on the back of it has pieces that you can fussy cut. I've cut this to 4 inches by 5.5 inches, and I've actually cut 2 of them. So I have one on the front and one on the back. The back is just plain. And then I've taken this, and I believe this is from here. So this was an 8x8 paper. This is what it looked like, and I just cut this piece across the top. So it is 4.5 inches long, or it's 4.25 inches long, and it's 1.5 inches wide. And then I just adhered the top and the bottom to that white cardstock. That way it is open. So a photo can tuck behind it if you have a larger photo, or you can just place a smaller trimmed photo right next to it. Then I'm going to place this here in my tuck spot of my clock. And I am finished with this part of the page, so I can go ahead and close that and then tie this up, and we will go to the back side of the page. For the back of the page, I only have the photo mat that's behind the waterfall. So I have taken my fussy cutting sheet. I cut 2 pieces that are 3 inches by 4 inches. So I have them here. Now, if you want this to be a 4x6 photo, just cut 1 piece that is 4 inches by the 5 7/8 and place it here. Now I have this piece. It was the back side of one of the leftover pieces from the fussy cut sheet, and it is cut to just a little bit smaller than 1.25 by 4 inches. Then from my fussy cutting sheet, I took this one, and I've adhered only the top portion so the bottom is open. The photo will slide underneath of it. Then for the back side, I have the photo mat going this direction so you can put a landscape photo. This is leftover from the 12 by 12 paper here. And so I've cut this to 4 inches by 6 inches. Then I have a leftover piece of one of my fussy cutting sheets that this is, again, just about 1.25 inches. You might need to trim it down a little tiny bit so it'll fit, and it's 4 inches wide. Then I have cut her from the fussy cut sheet, and again, I've left it open so the photo will slide behind it. Once this is finished, I'm going to just go ahead and slide this down into the pocket here. And this page is done, so we'll move on to page number 3. I did open up here and place one of my little cut apart pieces here with this open so that the photo will slide behind it. This is from the 12 by 12 paper. And then here for this photo mat, I've taken the leftover piece of the clock paper. It's 4.25 by 6.25. And then on the back, I've used one of the fussy cut papers that I've cut to 4.25 by that 5 7/8. Then I've taken this from one of the other papers. It was at the top of a paper. I can't remember which one. It was a 12 by 12, but I just cut that little strip off, and it is 4.25 inches. This will go here, in this little tuck spot. Then for this pocket, I have this is from the 12 by 12 paper. I've cut this down to 3 1/4. And then I have 2 pieces that are from this 12 by 12 paper. And I've cut these to 1 1/4 by 3 1/4. Then for the back side, I just fussy cut Prince Charming and adhered him down because, again, I thought this could be a journaling card, but if you wanted to put a small picture, you could. If you don't want this to be a journaling card, you can cut paper for the entire back side. And then this is going to go here in this side pocket. And that is all for this page. So we'll go ahead and tie this up and start on the back side. So for the back side, the only thing that I'm doing is adding one of my Cinderella cutouts. She's only adhered down at the bottom, so she's open. The photo will slide behind her. I've just placed it in the center of my booklet. You can place something on the back of the booklet too. You just want to be careful when you're sliding it in and out that it doesn't get caught on anything. So I'm just going to put that one piece on. And that's all I'm going to do to this page. For my photo mat for the page, I have this piece. It was left over from the 12 by 12 paper. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then on the back, I have another piece of my 12 by 12 paper, I believe. And no, this is actually one of the fussy cut sheets. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Then I've taken a strip of my paper. This was off of maybe this paper. I'm not sure. It's a 12 by 12 paper, but there was just a piece of this left over. So I've trimmed this to 4 1/2, and then whatever the width of that actual pattern was. And I've only adhered the ends to the white cardstock. So this is open. The photo will slide behind it. Now when I flip open, I have this clock image here that I have adhered down. But what I would recommend doing here, I actually don't like this. I wish I hadn't done it. I wasn't thinking when I did it. I fussy cut the horse and carriage and placed it here. Looks really cute when the page is open, but when the page is closed, you see this, and I don't like this. So what I would recommend that you do is, instead of putting this image here, take this image and place it down here along the bottom of this photo mat, and don't place that clock on the page. That is it for the front of the page. So next we'll move on to the back side. For page 4, I just had the card to decorate since we've already decorated the little journaling card. So I've taken my 12 by 12 paper. It looks like this. I've cut 2 pieces to 4 by 6. I put one on the front and one on the back. Then I've taken my 12 by 12 card and I fussy cut around it and just placed it on the front. Now for the inside, since photos are going to fill up this entire space, I didn't put paper on here except for these little strips. And I've cut these to 1/2 inch by 4 1/4 inches. They're from this 12 by 12 paper. The ends are only adhered down, that way the photos will tuck behind them. If you want to add another decoration or something else on here, obviously you can, but I'm going to leave mine like this. Now this card will fit this direction, but I'm going to place it this way just because I think it looks better on the page. If you want to add any type of decoration, a fussy cut on the back of this, you can, but I'm just going to leave mine plain. So I'll go ahead and close this page up, and that is all for the photo mats on the pages. So next we're going to finish up by decorating the 4 photo mats for inside our pockets. The last thing we're going to work on is the photo mats for between the pocket pages. So I have 4 pieces of my cardstock cut to 6 1/4 by 7 3/4. Now I have my leftover charms that I had in my package from Scrap and Create. I've cut about a 1 1/2 inch piece of ribbon, and I'm going to apply these to the ends of my mat so that they actually hang out and over the pocket, so they'll be dangling down the page when you see the album. They're going to be at different places on the photo mat though, so I'm going to show you where they are so that you can go ahead and mark your page. So the first one is 1 5/8 of an inch down. And for this one, I'm going to adhere my ribbon that has my little broom charm. So just like on the pages on the inside, I've got my adhesive and I'm going to apply my ribbon here. Now what I'm going to do is make sure that the broom is close to the edge of the page. I don't want it to hang too far out, so I'm actually going to make this a really small loop. Like this. So the loop part that's sticking over the edge of the page is relatively small. My second one is going to be at 3 1/8 of an inch down from the bottom. So I'm going to apply my adhesive, and this one I'm going to use my little pumpkin charm. So I will apply my adhesive here, then make sure the pumpkin is pretty close to the edge, and then I'll flip it over and secure it on the back side. The third one is 4 5/8 of an inch down from the top. So again, I'll apply my adhesive, and this one, I've got my crown. The fourth one is 6 1/8 of an inch down from the top. So I'll go ahead and apply my adhesive. This one is the love charm. Now for the paper for my photo mats, I'm going to completely cover both sides. So the first piece that I used was my 12 by 12 paper that looked like this. It had a row across the bottom, so I cut that row across the bottom first. Then I've measured this, so this is 7.5 inches, and I cut a piece off the top. Then I cut this right down the middle at 6 inches. So the one with the shoe, I'm going to put on the one with the crown, and the one with the little kind of like medallion, I'm going to put on the very first photo mat with the broom. The next piece that I cut was this 12 by 12. It had the zipper-like look that we use on the front cover, and it was cut, it was somewhere like this. So I actually used the bottom image. What I did was cut this in half, so they were 2 6-inch strips. And then I've cut this to 7.5 inches. And so when you place your photo, you would place it right over her and you wouldn't even know it was there. Or you could just leave it. If you don't want to cover it, you can use the back side. But I'm going to place Cinderella on the second photo mat with the pumpkin. Or the fourth photo mat, I'm sorry, she's the fourth photo mat with the love charm. And then the other portion I cut from the top of the page, and I've cut this to 7.5 inches. So it's going to go on that second photo mat with the pumpkin. Now the others aren't quite as complicated to cut. So this piece here, I had just a smaller portion of it left. I just trimmed it down, so it's 6 inches by 7.5 inches. It's going to go on the back side of the crown. Then for the back side of Cinderella, I had this paper here, and I cut 2 pieces of this. I will use the other side on another image. So for this one, I just cut a 7.5 inch strip and then cut it in half. So I had 2 6 by 7.5 inch pieces. So the flower paper I'm going to use on the back side of the Cinderella one. The other piece of that I flipped over to the blue side, and I'm going to put it with this one on the second photo mat with the pumpkin charm. Now the only one that's a little bit different is the first one, and that's because I didn't quite have a big enough piece of this paper. So the only piece that I had left over of this was 5 3/4. So this is 7.5 by 5 3/4. I'm going to place this on the back side, on the right hand side of the page. Then from my 8 by 8 paper, I had this piece left over, and I've trimmed this down to 1.5. It's 1.5 by 7.5. And I'm just going to place this here on the left side of the page to completely cover this one. And that's going to go on the very first photo mat with the broom and this paper on the front. Here's what the first photo mat looks like completed. So I'm going to go ahead and place it between these pages here. Just to the point where the broom hangs out. This is what the second one looks like. Again, placing this one between those pages just until that pumpkin charm hangs out. Here is the third photo mat. And then finally for the fourth photo mat. And then when I close all of my pages, those little charms dangle down. And when I close my book, they will all dangle down the side. I know you probably can't see this. If I tilt it, it's just going to tilt these, but hopefully when you do this with your book, you'll see what I'm talking about. So that is it for this tutorial, the entire series. The album is complete. Now you do have a little bit of paper left over. You've got some of these extra cut apart cards. You can make more journaling cards or smaller photo mats if you choose to do so, but I'm going to leave my album as it is. Thank you so much for joining the tutorial series. I hope you have enjoyed making your own album using the Ciao Bella Magic Spell papers. If you are just joining the tutorial series and you want to make your own album, click on the links in the description box below. They'll take you to the Scrap and Create website where you can purchase all those supplies that you need to make this album. A special thank you to Scrap and Create for providing the paper and the embellishments that I did use in making this album. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.